Do you want to say something, Troy? What is your opening statement?
I am feeling anxious, actually. That would be my opening sentiment.
Like Chloe Mall?
Well, you know
She's
the
nervous.
anxiety you get when you come back from a little vacation. You feel like, you got to catch up on a bunch of stuff. And meanwhile, you make the mistake of reading too much media and realizing that the world is in a very troubled place. And that's how I feel.
Okay, on that note... Welcome to People vs. Algorithms, show about detecting patterns in media, technology, culture. I'm Brian Morrissey, joined again by Troy Young. Troy, you're back from, where were you? Bandcamp?
I was in Jamaica. How was the episode while I was gone? It sounds like it was kind of mediocre.
I thought it was very good.
That was great.
Well, you and Alex have nothing
Probably
to talk
one of our better
we
episodes.
do.
Huh?
We have plenty
We
of
do.
talk.
No, it's like an awkward
We do.
first date, the two of you.
Not at all. You keep calling me awkward. I'm going to a party after
I think
this. It's going to be in my mind.
The vibe of the show is very different without your first character syndrome like butting in.
Yeah.
Because it gives us a little bit more time.
There were fewer
We should rename the
interruptions.
podcast with the two of you, like the N-word.
And joined, though he's mid-bite, Alex Schleifer is with us from his bunker. AB he's I don't know if he's easing out. He's not here again. Is he still working on a deal or he's traveling?
I got to tell you guys.
He's a banker. He's always working on a deal, right?
Yeah, always, and always filled with anxiety. I made the mistake of I was with a group of people, and one of them was a banker, and he sat at dinner with his AirPods in on a conference call. I mean, that's despicable.
Really?
That's great.
That's like jail time.
I told him, leave the table, man. Leave the table. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care how important this is. Leave the table. No, he was reviewing slides with a headset in at a nice dinner.
That's great. That's great. You either have it or you don't have it. That's the thing. You either got it.
I
or
think you
don't
get
have it.
deported if you do that in France. That's
That
when
is
our
true.
ice kicks in.
When our flight was canceled, he went into a full tailspin. He tried at the airport to charter a private jet to get back for a meeting.
Really? Did he try to bribe the gate agents? That'd be a great move.
Well, they were down a flight attendant, and when you're down a flight attendant and you're in Jamaica and you can't get another one, you have to cancel a flight.
Adderall is a hell of a drug, man.
Yeah. We have a lot to get to, as
Don't
they
say that. You can't say that.
Okay, we don't have a lot to get to. We're going to talk about AI anxiety. It was a little bit of an AI Super Bowl. We've got new developments that are afoot. And I believe I've been
It's a
tracking
very anxious episode.
an
It's a very anxious episode.
anti-AI lane that is being established in politics. We have a bunch of other things. Also, I want to get into design, the Trump design aesthetic that's coming out of the government. Joe Gebbia, who I assume you know him, Alex?
Joe Gebbia. Oh, I know
Gebbia?
him very well.
I've never said that.
very well.
Okay, you know him very well, so maybe you'll pull some punches. I don't know. But then also Mamdani. Mamdani's bringing he's in the honeymoon. I did call this. Everyone's slobbering all over Mamdani. And he's very design forward. But the meat of the episode I want to get to is I want you guys to help fix the Washington Post. It needs fixing. First, I'm doing this. Thank you for doing this on a new day, both of you, because I'm in London. I haven't been here in a couple of years. Another reminder, as I was walking around Kensington yesterday, that London has not fallen. I wouldn't believe what you see in social media. Seems like a lovely place. I didn't get my phone stolen yesterday.
I read that
was a good
Mega
day.
hates London, Brian.
Yes. It has become a symbol of all kinds of different things. I find it quite nice. I like London. I don't know how you guys
Doesn't
feel.
Mega hate like a lot of stuff?
Well, they hate you. They hate you for sure. And
I mean, I don't know.
they hate London because it's a fading DEI socialist European capital that's lost its former glory.
Have you been to London? And you know where it's, interesting. So
My favorite city outside of New York. I love London.
they're finally realizing what a disaster Brexit was. That's great.
Yeah.
Everybody comes around to it.
But the different neighborhoods map to like New York City neighborhoods, I find. I usually stay in East London. It's a little cooler, a little rougher, etc. but I booked it the last minute, and I'm staying over in South Kensington. It's like the Upper West Side, Upper East Side. Knightsbridge is down around like Madison Avenue, Harrods, and expensive.
The entire world maps to New York neighborhoods, Brian. The Hamptons maps to New York neighborhoods.
I did notice there's a new hustle with the Wi-Fi at pubs. I went to get the Wi-Fi at a pub, which is a great product, by the way. Pubs are great communal gathering places.
For
and
socialists.
I paid for the beer. It had a multi-question survey. They collected first-party data. They got my age. They got my address. They got my date of birth. Then they dumped me into a book a pub for Valentine's Day lead gen funnel. I thought you would appreciate. I thought of you, Troy.
Good.
Anyway, tomorrow I'm hosting a media mixer here. It's a little old school, a mixer. Got a great group coming.
What's the difference between your mixer and your usual events?
It's a casual. Mixers are casual social events. I don't want to use the word networking. Networking is like webinar. You don't use it. Just use euphemisms. We've got a great group
Do
coming.
people hook up?
Isn't a mixer for
hook
hooking up? I think that's right, Alex.
No.
Yeah.
A mixer is not for, well, I mean, it depends on a business way. I think that,
I don't know. I mean,
Well, it ain't mixed until you hook up, right?
yeah, when you're into ad tech, your dating pool's pretty small.
it's
So
not
I
ad
think it's
tech.
probably-
My partners at Beehive are supporting this.
Oh,
We got
Beehive.
people from Conde,
When are they sponsored?
from The Guardian, from the Financial Times, News Corp, Immediate, Hello. James Layman or Lamon from Football Co. is coming. I think you know him,
I do know.
Troy.
Isn't Beehive
Yeah.
meant to sponsor us at some point? I'll move
Yes,
my
we're
Substack
working.
over.
We're working on that.
Okay. Well, can you talk to them? Apparently, they're having a networking event, and you can meet them there.
It's a collaboration. Anyway, it's going to be, hopefully, maybe I could see a couple of you there. I know Lara O'Reilly, who is a faithful listener, will be there. So looking forward to it.
On
Seeing
those
old
kinds
friends.
of executional issues where they don't hit your P&L immediately, nothing happens
Who?
with you. Yeah. The Beehive thing has been hanging around for a long time. I'm ready to go.
Hit my
Site is-
P&L.
I'm even saying yes to advertising, Brian. This is
Okay,
how,
that's
like,
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, like,
I'll wear the
Okay.
T-shirt. I'll do an ad read.
I'll wet a T-shirt. Okay.
I'll wear a T-shirt. I won't wet a T-shirt.
Okay,
I won't
I thought you
wear
said
a
you
wet
would.
T-shirt.
I was wondering. It was very not European.
I mean, it depends. Everybody's got their price. I'm ready.
Couple of quick notes before we get into the meat. One is, this was very exciting to me. Mark Zuckerberg is moving to Indian Creek, which is this little private island right off Surfside, basically in Miami Beach. He joins, Sergey Brin is looking in the area. Larry Page is already in Coconut Grove. They're joining the rest of the Exodus. So when are you guys coming to Miami?
Are they
That's
going
my
to put a
question.
thumbs up on the sign for the island?
I don't know, but he's spending somewhere between $150 and $200 million on his place there. He's buying it from the guy who started Jersey Mike's. It's a lot of subs that guy sold. And then he sold it to private equity. And I saw basically their subs, like the amount of actual lunch meat on the subs, as you can imagine, has gotten pretty paltry. But he got out and then he sold his palatial estate in Miami Beach for 5x because all the billionaires want to avoid taxes. I think they're going to be back in California within 2 years.
Oh, those fucking guys. I'm so tired of them. I just
Okay,
fuck.
Okay, I was scoping neighborhoods for you, so that's a no.
Yeah, really to hang out with that fucking bunch of losers? Jesus Christ.
Well,
Okay,
your
well-
opinion would change if you were above the $1 billion threshold, Alex. You would be
They pay
out.
less taxes than you do, Troy. So just like, I mean, avoiding taxes, once you get past that bracket and you have all the instruments that you're
This is much more complicated than just avoiding taxes because it has to do with valuations and liquidity and all kinds of
I know, there are plus of things. Yeah, sure. Like live in California, enjoy all the success that you can have here by having access to talent. And the second you made it really big, bail the fuck out for 2 years and then come back. It's all performative bullshit. I'm tired of these guys. I'm just like, I've unsubscribed for a lot of tech news because it's just like that circle jerk of like these fucking cowards just bouncing around trying to avoid taxes. I'm done.
You're like a hip Scott
Okay.
Paying
Galloway.
attention to these fucks.
You were like Scott Galloway without
Yeah.
plastic surgery.
No, Scott Galloway annoys me too. I was offense from all this stuff. I realized at some point, like somebody like Scott Galloway is either wrong or says something completely obvious, and I don't need to spend time with that. Maybe I'm just like I'm hitting 50 this year. I'm just becoming a disgruntled old man. I'm just joining your ranks, Troy. But
Thank you.
I still love you, Troy.
Thank you for leaving me out.
Remember that photo I circulated?
Yeah.
No, God, you're 50 now, man. You're just the same age as me, basically. I remember I thought you were just a boy.
Basically, I was just a boy.
Now I love you even more. I love you, Alex.
I love you too, man.
Did you see the video of the new Vogue editor with Anna Wintour? She gave her first interview to the Times. It was a video interview with Anna Wintour. And they asked her, like,
this morning, I didn't get to watch that. What happened?
Well, they asked Chloe Mal, who's the new editor, about what she would do if she had the 90s budgets. She talked about building a podcast studio and everything. And Anna Wintour, of course, just like brushed past the question. And she just said, hey, we still have ample budgets. The interesting part was was when the interviewer asked when they last got nervous. And the Chloe said that before that interview, and Anna Wintour just said, I don't get nervous. It's a new down-to-earth era in publishing because those budgets are not coming back. All right, let's get into the AI anxiety. Did you guys watch the Super Bowl? Alex did not. I didn't really watch much of it myself, but I did see the commercials. And Super Bowl commercials are very strange in this kind of decentralized culture. They keep going up in price, but I feel like nothing lasts. I mean, these always, we would be writing about them in Adweek like weeks later. And I was like, life moved on. But nothing seems to stick. I can't believe people are paying $8 million for them. Coinbase ad was atrocious. But there was AI ads, of course. The Claude ad ran. They did tweak it because they were just simply lying about OpenAI. We talked about this last week, Alex. iSpot had a survey afterwards and it said it performed terribly. They were making
because
fun.
people don't understand the idea, the discussion. They just don't know what they're even talking about.
Has there been, and I think it highlighted something that we've talked about a lot, there's this massive gap. And I feel it as an ex-addict, which I am doing better about. Not great, but I'm doing better. When I open that app, and maybe it's my algorithm, I'm just flooded with this, you have 18 months to accumulate capital because all work is going away. And this AI accelerationist meme that has taken over the entire place. And then you go out in the regular world and people are like, oh yeah, I sometimes use it instead of Google. I can't remember this big of a gap. I don't remember it with the internet exactly. I mean, some people were using email before others, but I don't remember it being this stark.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Do you feel this way, Troy?
Well, I think that the anxiety is, the sort of collision of different perspectives on what AI, how it will affect us. And you have like kind of political philosophers like Michael Sandel talking about, a technology that will fundamentally change what it means to be human and all of the consequences of sort of consumerist versus a civic conception of freedom and how we participate in the world, the loss of human presence, the disappearance of dignity in work when people that own capital don't, when have capital or control the machines don't care about human agency. So you have that sort of, where are we going as a society? And then you have the sort of internet's digital conscience, Tristan Harris talking about the evilness of the platforms. And then you have like guys like this week, Matt Schumer, who's like some, startup dude, engineer guy. And he wrote,
something big is happening.
Yeah. And essentially the essence of,
I feel like I've read this before.
Right. Well, he's writing from a kind of developer's point of view, saying that, the model innovations that came with Codex and Anthropic's new model have dramatically changed the capabilities of models to make things from end to end. In other words, the AI can now build itself, that we're entering a period of acceleration that you can, instruct, like they're so good, you can go from, kind of schematics, design, coding, QA deployment, and that systems can now self-create. And everything we told blue collar workers to become an IT guy, or we told, humanities students to to learn about coding is all irrelevant now. And the amount that displacement will spread from, technology workers to lawyers, to consultants, to financial people, to medical people, and on, but it'll come first, obviously in the place where we make the machines. Now the machines can make themselves, and that it's the amount of upheaval and displacement is going to be profound. So you've got like, I don't know, I feel it when I try to understand, maybe we'll take a minute later to talk about what this, agentic world means to media, but I don't even know. I'm not quite sure what advice to give companies right now. What do you do next, whether you're a media company or something else? And I think it's
this is a job that exists, right? So Austin Reef, who was one of the co-founders of Morning Brew, he put out this tweet. He's like, I want to pay someone to come in and talk to me about how people are using AI and set everything up, OpenClaw, etc. And I sent him an email today, and he was like, yeah, I got over 100 responses. He goes, I'm going through them. I'm going to just hire someone to set all this stuff up. And I want that. So I told Austin, who you choose, I want to see how it goes for you. And then I want this person to come and just do it for me with what I want to accomplish. I don't want to learn all this stuff. I really don't. Everyone, all the coders and everything, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't know. I have someone come in to fix things in the apartment. I never learned. I probably should be able to fix my own toilet. I don't. And I just want someone to be able to do this for me and see. I think the big thing that I wonder about all of this, and in reading that essay that Matt Schumer wrote, was that his entire thesis to me was that what's happened to coding is coming for all of you. And that it hinges on that. And I wonder if that's true, because he said basically the AI companies focused on coding first, and that's why I'm screaming at ChatGPT, because it's horrible at doing writing and a lot of other things, and that they're going to now double back and do what they've done to coding to everything else. Now, I can understand that as a developer, because again, we've seen time and again, particularly out of the tech industry, they think everything is just like tech. That's why Jeff Bezos goes into to media and falls on his face. And it's not. It's not. And I think that the code is different than doing things that involve a lot of different kinds of judgment and gray areas, and that are a lot more qualitative than this. Am I onto something here? Because I don't doubt that the spaceship is over the White House and whatnot. I just find these kinds of essays that, again, I've read so many times at this point, a little too simplistic.
All of these are questions that I pose to people that I work with and people that I care about. And it strikes me that the legal profession is one step removed from coding. It's rules, and it's somewhere between coding and scripture. There are systems that govern what we can and can't do, and how we, structure relationships between people. And I don't know about you, but if you're doing legal documents, which I do, AI is insanely useful. And we saw, what was it last week, where Anthropic released a plugin that allowed you to analyze contracts more effectively, or something like that, that it had profound effects on, software valuations. And I just think if you're being paid, $2,500 an hour as a senior attorney, then that's maybe fine for a few years. And you're at the top of a pyramid where you can be accountable for the output of the systems underneath of you, whether those are human or AI. And yeah. I think that'll last for a while. But I think beyond that, the industry is in fact going to change radically and really quickly. And I don't know exactly what the response is for a young lawyer, other than try to create value in the system by using these tools, which is really what everybody says. Get to know them, be adaptable, become one with the AI. But I don't know why a business that basically is a coding business of sorts isn't going to just change dramatically, just like the coding world. And I think the guy's right. I'm talking about Schumer. How many students a year leave college with the promise of getting a job in the, world of technology? Tons. I mean, it's what we've been telling, liberal arts students or students of any kind, is to get a technical education. I don't know. It seems like my money would be on getting a liberal arts education at this point.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit more complex. I mean, I do think that people in law firms that will be paid purely because they're the accountable human, right? And that will become a job.
You need someone to sue.
Yeah. I think even in engineering, there's going to be it's going to be hard and we're seeing that with the SaaS, valuation, the software as a service industry is being decimated because people can see that, it's not maybe, Brian, you might not start programming your own CRM management system, but there's going to be hundreds of little upstarts that are able to try to build something new. Yeah. There are going to be companies that currently do one thing that now have the opportunity to do 5 things, right? But what I've noticed, and the most successful uses of AI coding has been people who are technical to begin with, right? And I think a lot of the learning of the language and the syntax and stuff like that, that's a little bit of superfluous knowledge. But yet, when you're a technically minded person, there's all of a sudden extra stuff you can do, right? So I know an engineer who started programming his own little boards that worked custom screens, and now he's a hardware designer. I actually feel like there's going to be some readjustments of what those jobs mean. But my biggest challenge is that there's no pipeline. A lot of these jobs that are going to be replaced are kind of like pipeline jobs into those roles, right? That's that's the job you do, the kind of menial coding stuff, the code review stuff, or the going through a document, as a kind of pre-legal and that type of stuff. I mean, I don't understand why companies would hire young people to do that. You know what I mean? I actually think there's going to be an explosion of really high profit margins around software and law and stuff.
There is for sure. There's going to be a period of time when between some weird future where everything is agentic and robotic and AI controlled and there's no need for humans, and the present where there's unnatural profits to be made, for sure. And I think that my advice would be pretty basic. Run all the costs out of your company that are connected to the old world, right? Customer support, coding, design, legal, finance, embrace the technology and simplify your cost structure and increase speed. Really, really critical. Look at any part of your value chain as a company that's in any way defensible that you can get even better at. If you're making a thing, how do you make it in a way that meets the needs of the audience and that the cycle times are quicker and, the feedback loops between you and your customer are more elegant? I mean, I think that, in any business you have to.
I think that's not it. Yeah, I agree with you.
But just hear me out, Alex. There's going to be far more competition because what AI is going to do is lower the barrier to entry in every industry because anybody can make shit. So
the people who make my CRM software can also make my tax management software or whatever.
100%.
But if we're giving advice, I do think that is straight up great advice. I feel like a critical one, though, is that we need to completely rethink how we evaluate and hire people, right? Because right now, the hiring process, specifically at scale, specifically at large companies, has been kind of coasting on this idea that, you have a degree, you have a very specific set of skill sets that are easy to test for, right? Here's the exam and here's this. And you're not testing for any of these other intrinsic skill sets that are going to be really useful. How do you test curiosity and the ability to think and see around corners and think creatively about a problem and all of these things? It doesn't matter if you cut everything. If the people in your company are not the people that can start, adapting to this new technology. And my guess is you've got to throw out the handbook on how you hire people and who you hire. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
I have an idea. Why don't you just go back and talk to people? Why don't you stop testing them? Why don't you stop with the brain teasers and all that dumbass shit that like Google
Brian,
was
that sounds like
constantly
really
doing.
hard work. It's just
And like,
hard
why
work.
don't you go to a mixer and like talk to people and understand whether they have that curiosity, whether they're actually interesting people, whether they think about things.
But where
There's
can
a
I find
crazy
mixer?
idea.
Where could I find a mixer like that? Where I can
There's
find
one
like-minded
tomorrow in
people?
Soho in London.
Oh, really? And
No, seriously, why not?
You might
Like,
hook up. Apparently, Brian says
There's
that
no
you might.
hookups. There's no hookups.
I don't know. You can't say that. Maybe.
It's possible. What about marketing? Is marketing then good? Because I wonder what lines up perfectly with code. Because honestly, like putting on mixers does not like line up with what I see out of ChatGPT. And
I think there's the
Claude.
mechanical process side of things where you need to, like I said, build for fast loops and efficiency. And then there's the craft side of things where, you know, the human part of it is even more important. So your brand is more important. Your sensibility is more important. You know, people that know where to point the machines are more important. You know, I just think that, you know, that there's a period of time that the people that can create leverage with technology are going to be insanely valuable. And so,
Yeah.
and I don't know how that, you know, I mean, what it means is that, remember, Omnicom has 100,000 employees. You know, clearly that industry is going to be rationalized. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of that work is busy work.
Yeah, I think, you know, Harvard Business School had a study that looked at like how AI is actually being used in companies, and basically it's intensifying work. It's taking out, like, what people love to, you know, shit on all the dumb stuff that you have to do as part of work. You have to do the meetings, you have to do the check-ins and the coordination. I mean, look at the Epstein files. Like, how much time did they spend just trying to figure out where people were to have some illicit meeting? It was ridiculous. And yeah, in theory, let's take that all away. It turns out when you take out all those worthless meetings and you leave just actual real work, it's really exhausting. Like, I found this just without the AI of like leaving like a company world where I was constantly in meetings and stuff. And then I had to like really just do like work. It stinks. Like, it's like really tiring. I think that's going to be the thing is that people are going to be affected by the most, at least initially. I think a lot of this stuff with we're going to wipe away all jobs is overblown. I just don't believe it, but maybe. But I do think what's
people
interesting,
to make enough money to buy all that shit that we're going to be building with this infinite supply of robots. Like, you know, I mean.
But I do think that this is, and again, I've talked about this a lot. This is a really weird technology that is arriving with so much fear and anxiety, and people simply aren't excited about it being shoved down their throats, particularly because it plays into the oligarchs, the people shoving it down our throats. They live in on Indian Creek, you know, and they have their own like maritime police force there. So they might need it, actually. They might be smart to be on an island with their own maritime police force. Ron DeSantis, Florida's governor, is looking for a lane to make a comeback. I don't think he has the riz to be president, and he arguably is not tall enough. But he's testing AI populism. He's really anti-AI. He's a very conservative governor, very smart guy too, whether you agree with him or not. And he keeps going after data centers, and he keeps going after AI. And I'm very interested because he sees this as a wedge issue, to pin this on JD Vance and to take out JD Vance as the presumed successor. I don't know where Marco Rubio falls in that. And we're going to see politics reshaped, I believe, by the backlash against AI. It can come in the guise of data centers are incredibly unpopular. I don't, live somewhere where there's a ton of data centers. I mean, there's that one in Tribeca and that like strange building on Church Street. But people don't like the data centers at all, and they become a symbol of this. And so, I think it's going to reshape politics. And you saw that a little bit with the ChatGPT ad. I'm always interested in how you advertise. Yeah, the OpenAI ad. It was for Codex during the Super Bowl. Right. They never actually show people actually using their product. for what it's always these like metaphors of people doing stuff in the real world, never the actual what the actual product does.
No, it's insanity. And if they give examples, they go like, help me plan a delightful birthday for my aging grandmother. It's like no, everybody's using this stuff already, guys. Like, like there's the advertising has been very, very bad.
So I think there's going to be a big lane for the anti-AI message, for the reason is this is causing middle-class anxiety. It's one thing, Chris Hayes had a video, a little short reel out about how what basically globalization did to the blue-collar workers, which was deindustrialize and replace their jobs by shipping them to other countries. This is basically technology replacing workers, and it's us versus them. I think it is a perfect lane. John Edwards was onto something with the two Americas. Unfortunately, he did have that secret love child that knocked his candidacy out, but he was onto something with that message. This is going to be a very clear populist message that is a fork off of MAGA. Book it. Can we talk about MAGA and design a little bit?
Sure.
So you're our design guru, Alex, although Troy, I don't know. I mean, graphic design is Troy's passion. I've seen some of his work.
Troy's pretty good. Troy's got good taste.
Okay. Yeah.
Just as with everything, he wants somebody else to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So
move his
move
mic
the pixels around.
And move the pixels around.
Joe Gebbia is the nation's first chief design officer, and he's redesigning the sort of front end of a lot of these horrific government websites. Like, government websites are never terrible, although healthcare.gov, after a horrible start, it's not the worst user experience.
Is that the new AI driven one that aligned with the Mike Tyson ad? Is that the Maha site? That then
they've got a Maha
and try
site.
To get it, just tell them what kinds of fruits and vegetables would be the best to put in their asses.
I didn't see that one. But the latest one is this
big thing this morning, which is tricking the stupid chatbot on the Maha site.
But the design,
Wonderful.
I want to focus on the design, okay? Because TrumpRx.com came out, and it's some of these sites they're nice sites. You know, you can say, I mean, like, but they're just like landing pages. Like the government infrastructure is still the government infrastructure. But have you checked out these sites, Alex? I'm wondering if you have any opinions.
Yeah. I mean, it's nicely designed. It looks like hymns or any one of these kind of millennial, design sites. Honestly, at this stage, I was testing that stuff out, and you can design a site like that with AI in like 20 minutes. So much of it is derivative. But it hasn't been really used in government. And honestly, like, outside of all the other stuff, we should design better sites. Although, I'm just uncomfortable by how it's named, that it ends with if you scroll all the way down and you go past the main thing that they advertise, which is Wegovy and Olympic, it ends in a giant graphic of a golden eagle holding the Trump RX logo. And
look, you worked in an agency.
Somebody likes it.
The client is the client, right? Like, I mean, you got to deliver for the client.
And right now, Trump's the client for everything. I wonder what he's like as a client. Do you think he was in a design review, Troy? I think the only thing they did is that they scrolled all the way down and they showed him the golden eagle. And
no,
that's it.
I am excited, actually. I think he's going to be able to make a lot of progress on the design of the web interface for the government, because Trump doesn't pay attention to any of this shit. He's an interior design guy. I mean, he's all about interior design. He's America's first gay president.
He is very excited.
He is totally into interior design. He does not pay attention to websites.
And on the old media as well. Like, anything that's on a newspaper, on TV.
This is all an extension of kind of Web 2.0 design rules that are popularized by big companies like Airbnb and Apple and the like. I think at this point it's total commodity, and AI can design it, or, there's certainly rules that accelerate the creation of those kinds of pages. The problem with government websites was partly design and bringing a kind of user centricity to how they executed. But I think the bigger problem is they reflected the organizational complexity and incoherence of government more than they did a kind of design problem. So it was less about, it was something on the page. It was like their APIs were no good. You couldn't do the things you wanted to do. And so now we're getting to a place where more and more of that can be automated. I think it's, on that front, it's great to see that it'll be easier to do shit like, file a document or pay your taxes. It's just going to be better. It's good. Go, Joe.
Well, I don't think we've seen that. I think it looks nicer right now. And is it working better yet? We'll,
see if it works better. Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah, well,
because at the end of the day, it is all those packets.
Booz Allen, you can only do so much with Booz Allen. I don't know. But let's just start with, a nice packaging. Mamdani also is carrying forth his campaign design language into his governing style. I think design has become an important part of how these politicians go about their business. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I saw the one you sent around, which was for an event they were putting on, Brian. What was that?
The New Yorkers versus bad landlords.
Yeah. It's all branding. He's great at getting attention.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm on the side of bad landlords, 100%.
Oh, we know. But I think...
this is cynical politics. Oh my God, this is horrible. Yeah. Come on.
Really?
Grow the fuck up.
Yeah, that's right. It's just working right now, and nobody wants what he's serving up. I think the thing with Mamdani that he does really well is that it's not only design, but it's the narrative of community. And a lot of the design kind of talks about community, social movements. It pulls back. It's very New York. And even just the way his events were, it's about bringing people together. And I think that's really successful. And also having a fucking opinion, because if somebody else tells me we should keep going with the stuff that's been happening before, hey, you might not agree with everything, but at least that guy's trying. And his message and his narrative and his design are all aligned around this idea of New York, a community, people getting together. It's really genius. It doesn't, the Trump RX stuff is pretty because it uses some baseline rules that are very commodified, like you said. But the Mamdani stuff is actually dependent on a larger narrative, which I think is really genius. If the Obama Hope thing was also just part of a design system, and great design system and great branding, we kind of dismiss it as, it's all branding. It's a narrative. It's a story that we tell people, that if enough people believe in that fiction, then maybe it can become real. And I think they're doing an amazing job. It's amazing. It's generational, the job that they're doing.
Okay, let's put a pin on that, as they say, and segue into a very difficult job, and that's running the Washington Post. Troy, you missed last week. We talked about this a little bit. After we recorded over the weekend, Will Lewis, the CEO of the Washington Post, exited, I guess, as they say, which usually means that someone was fired. But he left the Washington Post. The CRO is gone. Over 40% of their newsroom is gone. It could be up to 50%, really, when you add up the numbers. A blame game has begun. You can say it went too woke. You can blame Bezos. I blamed Bezos. That's an easy one, probably. You could have blamed Will Lewis and management. You can blame the journalists. They're making stuff that people don't want. You can blame, I don't know, big platforms, maybe AI and whatnot. But the question is, what does the Washington Post need in a CEO? Because I use the opportunity to do, I don't know if you saw this. I don't think Alex reads my newsletter. Maybe you do sometimes, Troy. I did a thing.
If I'm super bored.
Okay, thank you. The archetypes of media CEOs, because they named Jeff Donfrio.
The Tumblr guy, right?
As, yes, the CFO into CEO, perfect caretaker. He's an interim CEO. The CFO is always the sort of safest choice, particularly for an interim. That's what the most important thing is. But walk us through, Troy. I'm interested in your take on, what do you think the Washington Post needs? Jeff Bezos calls you up and says, Troy, what do I need here?
Good Lord. Actually, this happened to me against a different media brand last week. So it's a hard question right now, but I just pull back a little bit, Brian, and I would think about it like this, is that media, especially now that, all of these businesses tilt more towards selling a product to people, right? They're subscription businesses. So at its most, it's really simple, right? Media is a product that someone has to buy for a reason. And, this was a bit of a reset post the sort of scale programmatic era. And I think it's summarized best by my friend Chris Kimball, who says, to sell media, you have to have a transformational promise that people buy, right? It makes you better. It makes you happier. It makes you richer. It makes you skinnier. It makes you more competent at your job. You have to be faced with a value proposition that you say, I can see myself in this, and this is going to help me be more of what I want to be. And if it doesn't, you have a product market fit problem, right? Like that's the most simple way to look at media, right? And people can say, you're losing $100 million a year. You're worth $200 billion. Who gives a shit? Just this is your obligation as a billionaire to support a dying media franchise. But really, the loss is a signal that you have a product problem. It's not a signal that you should dump more money in it because you're like a benevolent guy. It's like you have a product problem. People aren't buying what you're making people. Like that's the problem. And so I think that then you juxtapose this with a sort of tech mindset. When those guys say, we need some first principles thinking, I want to like puke. But like the mindset here is, to me, the tech mindset, and Alex, you can kind of elaborate on this, but it's like, do hard things around a thesis where you think there's a problem in the market that's not being served, and an optimization cycle or principle, and optimize with really smart people that can take in the signals and make a machine and do it better and faster than someone else. And then you have the arrogance, of course, because you're a billionaire and you turned a bookstore in your garage into like $1 trillion enterprise, to think that that's true for media, right? Except that media is a craft industry. The people issues are much harder. They probably hate you. They're cat, right? They're not dogs. And the culture is really, really key. Values and value alignment are really key, and change is much harder. So when you go in there and you think we just have to optimize around the data, which was the message, that was all Bezos basically had to say this time around.
That's so stupid.
Of course you need data. Every business needs data.
Baby shit. Yeah.
Right. So
also they're talking like it's 12 years ago when he bought it.
Yeah.
Like,
Get Sharpie.
But it's just like,
I got to tell you, I had, part of my thesis at Hearst was really similar, is that there was a group of print editors that had no connection to their audience other than, like, I think of kind of a superficial one. They were hired for different reasons, and it was fine then because their point of view on the world really mattered, and that cascaded down through a print product to a detached audience, and data wasn't that important. You got a little bit of it, but it really wasn't important. And my solution at the time was to run all of our data feeds into Slack, completely change how the organization worked, and create a semantic engine around every possible piece of data that could help people do their jobs better. That didn't mean that talent didn't need to be a focus, or that, you didn't need to kind of create a culture in which people could do and make good media, where you could take the risks and find new things and anticipate trends and do good reporting and all that. But if you look at Washington Post, a little bit more mechanically, you would say clearly there's a leadership issue. Clearly there's an execution issue. They should have cut sooner and refocused the business into places where the reporting was unique and more defensible. They decided to build a stack for the industry, a tech stack that was called ARC. What a waste of time. They should have put that energy into building the most elegant, consumer experience that they could have. I think it's tough to be a regional newspaper, right? You're not big enough to be the sort of liberal paper of record, and you have too much cost. So you got to cut back on that. I think that you got to figure out what beats really, really matter. You stood on the sidelines as like 3 other companies came in and took the Washington beat from you. It's a company town, right? Politico, Axios, Punchbowl. They came in and took that core business. And I would ask, like, who do you really matter to? Are you a community newspaper that really serves the needs of the community? Are you serving the needs of the business people that have economic interests in that market? Are you serving the needs of people that need to understand Washington outside of those markets? But like, you have no distribution advantage, obviously, anymore, right? Having the paper in people's mailboxes doesn't exist. You have a cost disadvantage, and you're not clear enough because nobody's in the company that's like super motivated to make it work because it's their money, saying, where can we create product market fit around people that really need us and will pay for our product? And yeah, I mean, you thought for a minute that you could be the sort of, like force against, democracy dies in darkness. And like that evaporated, and that wasn't enough. And that's a slogan. That's not
a hack. It's a hack. We keep talking about hacks.
It's not about really serving the needs of an audience. And so I applaud the change. I think it's a real drag that it took this long to get there and that there's this much carnage. But they probably don't need 800 people in the newsroom, Brian. They can't afford it.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay. At the same time, like, I think like when you're going back, it's what is the identity of the Washington Post? Like, it doesn't have an identity. And all of the examples you went through, I think are completely correct. I think the question is who is it essential to? And I don't understand how the Washington Post throughout its history has always been pulled from being a hometown paper because their hometown happens to be the seat of the U.S. federal government into being more than that. And because of Watergate and their history around that, and they eviscerated and just wiped away all of their Washington coverage. You compare this to, like, say, even just the Boston Globe. The Boston Globe is profitable. It gets like 70% of its revenue from subscriptions. Okay. Washington is far bigger. Washington is the fifth largest metropolitan area by the size of its economy.
And it's run by John Henry, who was also a billionaire, detached from the organization, insisted that his team focus ruthlessly on subscriptions. And then when they needed to innovate around sort of industry focus, they created a health focused product called, what is it called, Brian? Stat. And built a B2B business around that as an appendage to the Washington Post or to the Boston Globe. If you look, by the way, at the comps right now, I mean, just to highlight the importance of execution here, there are 4 companies that all came out and announced their results in the last couple of weeks. The New York Times, People Inc., Bloomberg, and Thomson Reuters. All of them had close to 10% revenue improvements in 2025, driven by, even with all the platform difficulties that, say, someone like a People would have. Congratulations to Neil. Advertising revenue up, subscription revenue up, premium advertising is doing well, affiliates doing well. And so, yeah, they've been hit on the programmatic side, but these are just scrappy operators that have managed to build a business that worked. And yet, to set aside the New York Times, because I think it's an outlier, but Bloomberg built a business. They built a nice business.
I've been listening to a lot of this kind of coverage, and I think maybe we're all missing something. I mean,
Is this where Alex comes in and is like, there are mobile games that are bigger and more impactful businesses in this?
No, it's not that. I mean, I think it was, there was nothing done for 12 years. The layoffs happened terribly. The CEO wasn't there. Jeff Bezos is somebody that's used to be able to tell people when they're allowed to go take a piss. So it must be really hard working with difficult journalists. Nobody understands why he still wants this. Even if he can make it bigger, even if he can make it the #1 Washington newspaper, it's going to be. This is entirely a leverage game. This guy just spent $70 billion to make a documentary. Like
million.
He wants to $70 million.
Although these days, you never know.
These days, we don't know. And now there is a newspaper that he can use as a leverage point, and that's 100% what he wants to do. So you kind of trim it down, simplify it, put a friendly CEO in it. You're annoyed with all the people telling it wasn't on his radar. He wasn't paying attention. There's going to be people walking around saying, "Oh, we got to coming into the company saying, hey, we got to take the internet seriously because it's happening, guys, and we need data. But in fact, it's entirely just like a mouthpiece to make sure that he can get his rocket contract signed. Like, I don't think I'm being paranoid. I think that's entirely what's happening because there's no other reason for him to keep it.
Well, it's funny because
that was a $500 million yacht. Like he's fine,
Yeah.
He doesn't want to make media work. He doesn't care.
I think his compound on Indian Creek at this point might be valued higher than what the Washington Post is.
Yeah, and that thing's gonna get decimated and be used as like whatever mouthpiece he needs to make whoever happy that he needs to make happy. That's fine. It's his toy to play with.
But media is always a good front end business for some other purpose. I mean, you mentioned all the different earnings that were good, but you missed News Corp. That was a couple of weeks ago. They're doing well. And the Journal is doing well, and the Journal is the front for a bunch of different businesses and Dow Jones that are mostly around, pricing services and a lot of these, B2B businesses. And I don't know what Jeff Bezos wants the Washington Post to be. That's why I said he owns all of this. At the end of the day, what is the purpose? Fine. You don't want to lose $100 million a year. I get it, I guess. But at the same time, if you haven't said what is it that this company is trying to do? I don't think it's clear at all what he wants to do. So who knows what kind of new CEO he wants, because I don't know if it has an identity.
I don't think it needs a strategy, man. I think there's somebody right now. I think there's somebody right now that likes newspapers and things that are written about him in the newspaper, and that's it. I mean, that's a pretty, you run it lean and you can put whatever you want on the front page. That's great. Like, it doesn't look like there's any strategy. The layoffs didn't happen with any strategy. And the people, like what you do after big layoffs like this, first of all, you handle the layoffs well, so it's not a disaster in the press and people don't lose trust for the brand.
First of all, is it possible, name anyone who has done layoffs, and I think media is particularly terrible at layoffs, and partially because the people you're laying off are feral. Right. They're cats, not dogs, as Troy aptly put it out. But I don't know anyone who has done layoffs, particularly this scale is massive, right? I don't know anyone who's done.
I mean, how many people did they lay off?
And just for clarity, in all those
300.
examples, people couldn't be more different than the Dow Jones. Bloomberg has its own idiosyncrasies. All of them leveraged kind of modern realities of media in a way to create a good business with a lot of pressure, be it economic, changing advertising, distribution, unions, all of that. And you want to ask what publishers should build. At the end of the day, you got to do something that people want to pay for. You got to have convening power. You have to do differentiated reporting. The robots can't do reporting. You have to look at the brand expansively. Brands matter more than ever. Licensing is really an important part of it. Increasingly, advertisers are demanding performance solutions, so none of us can escape from that. And in the world of LLMs, you have to have something highly differentiated. And, it's probably related to either your reporting or your data sets or your ability to convene communities of people. And all of those things, like, what does that mean to the Washington Post? Figure it out. It's not that hard. Right? It might mean that you need to be 300 people instead of 1,000 people. That's fine. We get overly sentimental about layoffs. Listen, like today, Heineken announced that we're going to get rid of 6,000 people today. Last week, Amazon announced 16,000 people. Okay. I get that journalists are a rare breed and we get highly sentimental about these people that are play this priest-like role in our culture. I think it's really important. By the way, there's going to be no shortage of people reporting on shit because we all make media.
Yes. I 100% agree. Yeah, you needed to trim this business down. By the way, I feel like 300 people got fired. When the pandemic hit, I had to fire at least 200 people on my own team. So I've managed these things. I understand it's the shittiest thing. Nobody ever wants to do it. But when you see execution that is so fucking terrible, not only terrible, let's say you didn't even care how they treated people, that the way they managed to make it look like they didn't know what the hell they were doing, that there wasn't somebody, that the CEO was absent, that there wasn't somebody that's going to come in and here's the strategy and here's our renewed focus with a clear vision, right? You're going to have upset people, but you can look at the way it was done in such an, sloppy way in either one or two things. They are incompetent or they don't care, because at the end of the day, they just need a shell to promote some sort of message so that they can buy into the things. And I think either one of those isn't good. And yes, you can defend their layoffs, but you can do layoffs differently. Nobody's going to ever like them, but you can do them differently. And this was badly done. It's badly done. This is like, laying off 300 people, like, tech companies like Amazon,
I do have a little bit of sympathy
7,000.
though, Alex, right? Because you have people like, God bless them, Dylan Byers, like covering your every move for months and months and months, having Matt Murray on his podcast, asking him if Will is Will really an asshole? Like, is he really incompetent? Is he really an idiot? Answer the question on my podcast. Like this, the amount of coverage.
That's what the press does. So what? You don't like they don't like the mirror pointed back to them? That's the way this is not the way this should.
Yeah, of all the people, I mean, that's why I like focusing on like salespeople, because they can't complain if I'm like aggressive in the sales. I mean,
it's like the
journalists can't be too sensitive about people doing
exactly. It's like
journalism
people
online.
working at TMZ that all of a sudden want like their privacy. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, Matt Murray did take a lot of. I give Matt a lot of credit for being.
Oh my
the
God,
front
he
man
took on a lot
on there.
Yeah,
reminded me of you, Troy. Actually, taking on being the front person for.
I mean, I got to tell you,
union
personally, as someone who's been in
negotiations.
those roles, that you weren't there for this kind of move is absolutely despicable.
Yeah,
it's awful. It's just awful.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, we do. It's too bad it didn't line up with our reputation episode, because I don't think that did a ton for Willis's reputation. So maybe he could come on my podcast, try to repair things. We'll see. Do we have a good product?
Well, you guys can kick in a little bit. One of the things I like most about eating in Jamaica are the Scotch bonnet peppers, which if you ask, they'll dice it up, fresh, and you just sprinkle them on your food. They're hot, but they're flavorful. So it's not just mindless heat, it's flavor plus heat. I thought, though, that seems, that's opening me up for some criticism. I would say that, with all this stuff going on, trying to figure out, like in the AI stuff that we talked about, figuring out what you should do as a person making products or marketing products going into, a very uncertain time. It's good to have people that are kind of mapping out what the important trends are. And there's this agency called Arcade Studios in Toronto that released this deep dive into 2026 trends called Scan Club. And it was, they do it on Substack, and then they point you to the 5 trends that they think are important for the year. And they show examples of each of the trends on a big Figma board, Alex, which I thought was really nice. Using Figma as a tool to present a case study feels modern to me. Each of their observations fit into one of 5 categories. So improvisation as a way to bring back serendipity into what you create as a marketer, like little moments, things that happen spontaneously that feel exciting. Analog everything. I mean, in my household, journaling has become huge. My wife and my daughter are super into journaling, and these French journaling books that they buy. There was a feature in the Times about them.
French.
Sounds
But,
very Brooklyn.
vinyl, journaling, cooking, crafts, hobbies.
All these things are Brooklyn.
Hey, I went to Amoeba Records here in San Francisco over the weekend. It was packed with young people.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Kind of romance of mundane things like preparing a meal for a friend. Camp is really big, which is like maximalism, absurd, cringe is cool now. Storytelling, or what they refer to as lore, from a sort of trusted narrator where the audience can kind of participate as things unfold. And that you can kind of dream about the stories that are being told. So I think it's a cool document. We can put the link to it in the notes. I shared it with you guys if you want to see the Figma board. It's pretty cool. Good
Would
point.
would my mixers fit in here? I think they do. They tick several of those categories.
Camp.
Brian's managed to pitch his mixes 4 times, I think, 3 or 4 times. Now, Brian,
Well, wait till
Brian,
the sock hop rolls around.
so to get people excited about next week's episode, Brian's going to report back about his mixer and how the Beehive sponsorship is working out.
Absolutely.
That's it for this episode of People versus Algorithms, where each week we uncover patterns shaping media, culture, and technology. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Vanya Arsenov. She always makes us a little clearer and more understandable, and we appreciate her very, very much. If you're enjoying these conversations, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps us get the word out and keeps our community growing. Remember, you can find People versus Algorithms on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and now on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, guys. I gotta go prepare for the mixer. This is fun.
See you.
See you.